Get the latest weather, traffic, and news updates online at 560theanswer.com. Now, from the Signature Bank Studios. If you're looking for the latest news, insight into what it means, and the sharpest opinion, there's only one station in Chicago where you can turn, and it's this one. We're AM 560, The Answer.
All right, welcome back to Chicago's Morning Answer. Amy Jacobson, Jeannie Ives in for Dan Proft. You can hear us Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. from 11 a.m. to noon right here on the station. The Real Story, where we focus on local and state issues. So something happened the other day. An ICE agent was arrested in Minnesota. And it happened at the same time as the mosque shooting in San Diego. So it literally that happened within minutes. So a lot of coverage was missed because everybody was focusing on that, which rightfully so, I understand. But I always like to find out what really was going on. Who was arrested? What did they do? With that, let's welcome back to the program Dustin Grage. He's a columnist at townhall.com. You can follow him on Twitter or on X at Grage Dustin. Good morning, Dustin. How are you?
Doing well, Amy. Thanks for having me.
Okay, so who was arrested and what did they allegedly do?
Yeah, so this is the ICE agent. I believe it was right after the first incident where ICE agent was nearly run over, and he had to go back and defend himself. But then from there, of course, you have Tim Walz and Peggy Flanagan, Keith Ellison, other Democrats in Minnesota, just kind of spreading the fire a little bit too much. Going off on saying how ICE agents are Gestapo and all these different things. Chaos ensues. Well, now we have all of these incidents happening, and this same night also a patrol individual's vehicle had been completely destroyed and ransacked. Firearms were stolen out of the back of the vehicle by protesters. So there's a lot going on this night. And then we also hear from DHS that a agent had been beaten with a shovel in the winter, and they were assaulted, and then the agent then fired a round back at an individual. I believe they shot their leg of this individual that was allegedly beating them with the shovel. And that was the report coming out, especially with all the chaos. But it turns out that the ICE agent may have lied, and he wasn't actually being beat with a shovel. So now we're in a very particular situation now where that ICE agent has now been charged with the incident because they would have lied on the record. So at least that's what the video is showing. Of course, there's going to be a full investigation, charges and everything with that. But currently that individual has been charged now. And I just heard as of this morning now that the ICE agent plans to turn themselves in to do the trial. So that's currently the space we're in right now. Granted, I haven't overtly examined the video thoroughly, but everyone that I've been speaking to kind of says that, yep, this ICE agent probably lied, which unfortunately won't be helping the situation when you have an ICE agent who does something unfaithfully, because now it's going to put everyone else at risk. And of course, we all know as conservatives that ICE agents have seen 1,000+ increase in targeting violence towards them and their families. I mean, when you see people leaving the federal building in Minnesota, others are following them. They're following them to their homes, trying to figure out where they live. This isn't going to help that type of a situation when you have an individual that kind of goes out of the ranks and does something like this. It's not going to help the situation at all when it comes to enforcing immigration. But that's an unfortunate situation that's currently unfolding right now in Minnesota.
And how many ICE agents have been arrested? What about the man who I think rightfully, Renee Good was allegedly trying to run him over and he shot her?
Yeah, so I believe the Hennepin County attorney is attempting to do charges with that. Granted, they don't have the information that the feds have. They have the full book on here's the incident, here's all the evidence. The Hennepin County attorney's office doesn't really have that information to be able to even really charge. So that, and honestly, in that situation, we've all seen the video, we've all seen the moments leading up to it. And like personally, Amy, I actually saw the wife or the partner the day of that shooting later that night. I actually ended up going on Fox that night, and they ended up throwing that woman on MSNBC and doing the whole bit. So we saw each other in the hallways, Amy, and I looked at that woman's eyes, and she looked like she had just seen death, and just you could see guilt on her face because looking back at that video, she even says in a separate one where a pedestrian's just taking video of someone, she says, "It's my fault. She shouldn't have even been here. We shouldn't have been here." She feels so much guilt because I think she knows deep in her heart that they put themselves in a situation that got her partner killed. And they know that they're probably in the wrong there. I mean, I had obtained a video that ended up going viral. It was like 5 straight minutes of the individual honking and dancing to the beat of the horn. They knew exactly the situation they were in, and they ended up charging the officer with the vehicle and ultimately, unfortunately, ended in her death because they put themselves in a situation like that. While maybe these other ones, like the Preddy case, I think is a little not as cut and dry. I mean, this is an individual, yes, who kicked out a taillight weeks prior, had been looking for problems with ICE agents. I mean, he's had a history of it. His family told him, don't get involved with ICE anymore, and he continued to do it. So he put himself in a situation, but probably not in a situation that should have ended in his death. So that one's not as cut and dry, but this other one, that initial one that started the chaos, probably I would say let's side with the ICE agents on that one. But that's currently where we're standing right now. And then the Alex Preddy one, that one's still developing as well. But this is the first one where it appears to be fairly cut and dry. The ICE agent's probably in the wrong here. Thankfully, it didn't end in someone's death, though.
Well, it is interesting because it's also the first time for me hearing that Renee Good's spouse actually had some remorse about them doing what they're doing. I have not heard
in
that
the video.
before.
She gets out. She goes, "There you go, honey," and she coaxes her along to run into the ICE. She was listening to her commands. It was weird. You should see the video.
No,
it's very
in a
disturbing.
video shortly after the incident, a man walks out of his house right outside the incident and is filming, "Hey, what's going on?" And she's crying on his porch saying, "It's my fault. We shouldn't have even been here." So she had immense remorse. And personally, I saw her with my own 2 eyes later that night. She had looked like she had just seen things. And after seeing those videos and combining all of that together, that's my personal perception of it, is she knows that her spouse would be alive today had she not brought her to that situation and put her in that situation. So that's my personal perception of it after you combine all of that evidence together.
Well, my personal perception on all of this is that if law enforcement at the local level actually enforce the laws and let ICE do what they need to do without interference from protesters, then you wouldn't have seen anything of what we've seen on the streets of Chicago or at Broadview. And in fact, I mean, even these Broadview 6, we have these Broadview 6 protesters that got prosecuted, and now it's all coming down to just a misdemeanor when they've actually had felony interventions with ICE officers and trying to stop them from doing their job. And now it's just a federal misdemeanor trial that's going on. And that's going to happen apparently next week here in Chicagoland. But again, I mean, it's too late in terms of taking action against these protesters and saying, get out of the way. This is a federal enforcement action, and you need to be on the sidelines. And it took a long time before, even in Broadview, Illinois, where they have an ICE detention facility, they finally put up concrete barriers and started to enforce the rules around, look, if you're a protester, here's your area. Go ahead and protest, but here's your area. And this should have happened way before it got out of hand with Renee Good and her wackadoodle spouse going out there thinking that they can interfere with a vehicle.
But here's the thing.
By the way,
I blame politicians and pastors and community leaders because they use the word kidnapping. They're being kidnapped, and that motivated violence on the left because that's inflammatory rhetoric, and that is dangerous because then you think, oh my gosh, an American citizen's getting kidnapped, I have to go help. It's a call to action. So
yeah, but I mean, obviously this ICE officer who it appears, overstepped the bounds big time, firing into a house when he knows there's multiple people there with a shotgun. Good grief, you're going to hurt somebody. He's going to be prosecuted. Not so with these ICE protesters. I don't feel like they're going to feel the full effect of what their actions actually did and the danger that they put others in. And that's the two-tiered justice system. That's what's wrong in these cases.
Well, even worse, guys, when they do create these sections where you're able to quote unquote protest, I mean, they're still following ICE agents still months later. But later, a good friend, Savannah Hernandez, came as a TPUSA reporter here in Minnesota, broad daylight. Now, I've had Nick Sorter had bricks thrown through his truck as he was trying to flee these people during Operation Surge. But we're talking months later. Savannah Hernandez, TPUSA reporter, this woman's like 110 pounds. She's the size of my wife. Was pushed by a near 300-pound man to the ground and beaten by several other family members. Not all three of those family members are even going to get charged. Currently, I believe only one man, the man who pushed her, is actually getting charged locally. The only reason all three are going to receive charges is because Trump is in the administration right now, running the country, and we have the feds bringing charges against all three right now. Otherwise, these people would be walking near scot-free off right now. So, yeah, even when you create these situations of like, oh, we have this separate protesting area, they've emboldened the left to say, hey, if you go and you cause some violence, you push some people, you rough them up a little bit, there's a pretty good chance we're going to let you off as long as you're a leftist.
All right, we're speaking with Dustin Grage. He is from a columnist at townhall.com. You can follow him on X at Grange Dustin. I wanted to ask you about your primary. Election day is Tuesday, August 11th. And how's our girl Michelle Tafoya going to fare? She's running for the U.S. Senate seat.
So, yeah, she's doing well, I think. Granted, our primary is not till August. I believe Texas is going to be this upcoming Tuesday, so that's going to be a big one. But our convention is going to be coming up this upcoming Saturday. I would say Michelle is currently in second for the convention. Unfortunately, Minnesota Republicans, we're not that great at selecting statewide candidates. As you maybe have seen, we haven't won a statewide election in 20 years. But I have some great news. I have obtained some internal polling. It's going to be released in early June, but it sounds like we're nearly tied with Amy Klobuchar right now for the governor's race if we nominate a candidate known as Lisa Dameth and Ryan Wilson as a running mate for governor. So currently we're nearly tied right there with Amy Klobuchar.
That's because nobody wants
for 30 years.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear her whiny voice for 4 years. Have you ever heard her voice?
and then beyond that we have Michelle Tafoya, who's set a record for fundraising. We're talking over $2 million in just a couple months.
Good.
For Minnesota. I've never heard of a candidate raising $1 million in a year up to the state convention. She's doubled that in months. So Michelle Tafoya is in a great position. She's currently leading by 30 points in the August primary. So she's well ahead there. Now, if we can get her an endorsement out of the gate, it's going to make everything so much smoother for Minnesota Republicans. And I'll be at the convention next Saturday to make that case to delegates. There's a couple thousand that'll help make that decision. But if we can get her an endorsement and get her a nice runway over to the primary and into the general, while the Democrats have an intense primary. We're talking about, I think, about $6 million right now going at each other's throats right now. So if the Democrats are each other's throats, they're spending all their money on a primary, and we can walk right into the general with our best candidate, who is currently outraising the Democrats in Minnesota in the fundraising race. So if we get Michelle there, they're spending their money on each other at each other's throats. We have a very real chance and not just winning some statewide seats, but potentially taking everything. So it's going to be a tough race. It's Minnesota, but there's real hope coming to the state for sure.
All right. Thanks, Dustin Grage. We're going to leave it there. Columnist at townhall.com. And he joined us on the Alpha Wealth Group answer line.
The stories you need to know to start your day. This is Chicago's Morning Answer on AM 560. The Answer.
I, Ben Huth, being of mostly sound mind.
What you doing?
I hereby bequeath the Cara dining table from Penny Mustard to my great-great-great-grandchild.
Really?
Our fine, sophisticated furniture is made of solid wood and lasts for generations, so I'm making sure everything's covered.